I always thought life-shattering moments would come with dramatic music, or at least some kind of warning. Instead, mine arrived on a Tuesday afternoon while I was organizing our home office, accompanied only by the gentle hum of the air conditioning. "I need you to leave," Clay said, standing in the doorway with his hands in his pockets, as casual as if he were discussing the weather. "Scarlett's pregnant. My name is Elizabeth," and that was the moment my perfect life began to unravel. Or so Clay thought. I looked up from the stack of papers I'd been sorting, my hand freezing mid-motion. "Scarlett? Your assistant Scarlett?" "Yes." He had the audacity to look annoyed, like I was the one inconveniencing him. "I've already talked to my lawyer. You'll be well taken care of, but I need you out by the end of the week." I laughed. I couldn't help it. The absurdity of the situation hit me like a wave. "You need me out? This is my house too, Clay." "Actually," he stepped forward, his confidence radiating off him like cheap cologne. "Everything's in my name. The house, the cars, the business." "The business my father built?" I cut him off, my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. "The business I've run for the past 5 years while you played housewife," he sneered. "Look, Elizabeth, let's not make this difficult. You knew this wasn't working." I stood up slowly, my fingers brushing against the hidden compartment in my desk drawer. Inside lay documents that would wipe that smug look off his face, documents I'd spent the last year quietly collecting. But now wasn't the time. "How long?" I asked, walking around the desk. "Does it matter?" "It matters to me," he sighed, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair. "A year and a half, but that's not the point. Scarlett's 3 months along, and we want to start fresh. I'm trying to be fair here." "Fair?" I stepped closer, close enough to smell his expensive aftershave. "You want to talk about fair, Clay? Okay, let's talk about fair. Let's talk about how you've been sleeping with your assistant while I've been managing our charity foundation and sitting through endless dinner parties with your clients." "Managing the foundation?" he scoffed. "You mean attending lunches and planning galas?" "Please, Elizabeth, let's not pretend you've been doing anything substantial." The door chimed, and Selena's voice called out from downstairs. "Elizabeth? You home?" Clay's jaw tightened. He'd never liked my best friend, probably because she saw through him from day one. "Up here," I called back, not taking my eyes off Clay. "Perfect timing," he muttered. "Look, I'm heading out. We can discuss details later. Just start packing." As he turned to leave, I found my voice again. "Clay?" He paused, looking back with impatience. "Remember when my father made you sign those papers? The ones you didn't bother reading because you were too excited about becoming CEO?" A flicker of uncertainty crossed his face, but he masked it quickly. "What about them?" "Nothing," I smiled. "Just, maybe you should have read them more carefully." Selena appeared in the doorway just as Clay pushed past her. She watched him storm down the stairs, then turned to me with raised eyebrows. "What's his problem?" I sank into my chair, the adrenaline finally wearing off. "His mistress is pregnant and he wants me out by the end of the week." "That son of a—" Selena rushed to my side. "Are you okay?" I reached into the hidden compartment and pulled out a thick folder. "I'm better than okay. Remember last year when I started taking those online business courses? And all those lunch meetings you covered for me?" She nodded slowly, realization dawning on her face. "Well," I spread the documents across my desk. "While Clay was busy with Scarlett, I was busy too. Making friends with the board members, learning the business inside out, and—" I tapped a particular document. "Securing my position as majority shareholder." Selena's eyes widened as she scanned the papers. "Holy shit, Elizabeth, does he know?" "Not yet." I gathered the documents back into the folder. "But he's about to learn that my father was smarter than he gave him credit for, and that I'm not the trophy wife he thinks I am." "What are you going to do?" I stood up, tucking the folder under my arm. "First, I'm going to call Jonathan at the office. Then I'm going to need your help setting up a meeting with someone who knows where all the bodies are buried in this company." "Who?" "Terrence Ray." The CFO, Clay, forced into early retirement last year. I grabbed my phone, already scrolling through my contacts. Clay wants to talk about fair. Let's show him what fair really looks like. You've been busy, Jonathan said, spreading the documents across his desk. We were in his private office after hours, the city lights twinkling through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Does anyone else know about this? Just Selena, I replied, watching his face as he examined each paper. And now you. He looked up, his usually calm demeanor showing hints of both admiration and concern. These transfer documents, they're all legitimate. Your father really did leave you controlling interest. He left Clay as CEO, but made sure I held the majority shares through a blind trust. I leaned forward. Clay was too excited about the CEO position to read the fine print. Classic Robert, Jonathan chuckled, referring to my late father. He always said Clay was too ambitious for his own good. His expression turned serious. But Elizabeth, if you're planning what I think you're planning, you need to know something. Selena, who had been quietly observing from the leather couch, sat up straighter. What is it? Clay's been moving money around. Nothing obviously illegal, but definitely questionable. Jonathan pulled out his laptop. I've been keeping track. Here, look at these transactions. I moved around his desk to see the screen. The numbers were staggering. Where's all this money going? That's the interesting part. Jonathan clicked through several spreadsheets. It's being funneled through a series of shell companies. And guess who's listed as a director on one of them? Scarlett, I breathed. Bingo. He turned to face me. He's been setting up his exit strategy. My guess is he was planning to push you out, then resign with a golden parachute before anyone could discover the missing funds. That bastard, Selena stood up, pacing the room. He's not just cheating on you, he's stealing from the company your father built. I felt a cold anger settle in my chest. Can you get me proof? Something concrete. Already working on it. Jonathan pulled out a USB drive. I've been gathering evidence for months. I knew something was off, but I couldn't prove it until now. Why didn't you say anything before? Selena asked. Jonathan's face darkened. Clay made it clear what happens to whistleblowers. Remember Marcus from accounting? I remembered. Marcus had resigned suddenly last year after questioning some irregular expenses. He hadn't been able to find work in the industry since. But now, Jonathan continued, with you holding majority shares, we can actually do something about it. My phone buzzed, a text from Clay. Where are you? We need to discuss arrangements. He's getting impatient. I showed them the message. Good, let him sweat. What's our next move? Selena asked. We need Terrence, I said. He knows every financial detail of this company for the past 20 years. If anyone can help us trace where the money's really going, it's him. I can set up a meeting, Jonathan offered. He still trusts me. But Elizabeth, we need to move carefully. Clay has powerful friends. So do I replied, thinking of the board members I'd been cultivating relationships with. And unlike Clay, I actually listen when they talk. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Cameron, Clay's sister. We need to talk, privately. Well, this is interesting. I showed them the message. Can we trust her? Selena asked. No, Jonathan answered firmly. She's always been Clay's biggest supporter. True, I said, but she's also pragmatic. And if she's reaching out... I typed a quick reply. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., the usual place. You're really going to meet her? Selena looked worried. Knowledge is power. I stood up, gathering the documents. And right now, we need all the intelligence we can get. Be careful, Jonathan warned. Cameron's clever. So am I smiled. Clay just never noticed because he wasn't paying attention. I turned to Selena. Can you do some digging on Scarlett? Employment history, financial records, anything that might be useful. Already on it. She pulled out her tablet. Did you know she worked at 3 other companies where the CEOs had mysterious financial issues? Now, that's interesting. Jonathan raised an eyebrow. Sounds like they might have a pattern. I checked my watch. I should head home. Clay will be wondering where I am, and I want to keep him thinking he's in control for now. What are you going to tell him? Selena asked. That I'm looking for apartments, I smirked. Let him think I'm being compliant. Meanwhile, Jonathan, can you get those financial records ready and set up that meeting with Terence? He nodded. I'll have everything prepared by tomorrow afternoon. As I gathered my things to leave, I felt lighter than I had in days. Clay thought he was orchestrating my exit. Instead, he was about to learn what happens when you underestimate the quiet ones who've been watching and learning all along. The cafe where I met Cameron was quiet at 10 a.m., just how I liked it. She was already there, perfectly manicured fingers wrapped around a cappuccino, her designer handbag placed strategically on the empty chair beside her. You look terrible, she said as I sat down. Finding out your husband's having a baby with his mistress will do that. I ordered a black coffee when the waitress came by. What do you want, Cameron? She leaned forward, lowering her voice. Clay's making a mistake. Which one? The affair or trying to push me out of my father's company? Both. She glanced around before continuing. Look, I love my brother, but he's being an idiot. Scarlett. She's not who he thinks she is. I studied her face, looking for signs of deception. And you're telling me this because I've seen this before. At her last 3 jobs. She gets close to the CEO, things get messy, money disappears. Cameron pulled out her phone, sliding it across the table. Look familiar? The screen showed a news article about an embezzlement scandal at a tech company 2 years ago. The CEO had resigned in disgrace. And there, in a background photo, was Scarlett, looking younger but unmistakable. Why show me this now? Because, Cameron started, but my phone buzzed. It was Jonathan. Terence is ready to meet, now. I have to go, I stood up, leaving my untouched coffee. Elizabeth, wait. Cameron grabbed my wrist. Be careful. Clay's not thinking straight, and Scarlett, she's dangerous. I pulled my arm free. Thanks for the warning, but you might want to tell your brother that. The drive to Terence's house took 20 minutes. He lived in a modest suburban home, nothing like what you'd expect from a former CFO. Jonathan was waiting in the driveway. He's nervous, Jonathan warned as we walked to the door. Took some convincing to get him to meet. Terence opened the door before we could knock. He'd aged since I'd last seen him, his hair grayer, his face more lined. Elizabeth, Jonathan, come in quickly. His living room was filled with papers and files. A laptop hummed on a cluttered desk. I've been expecting this visit, Terence said, closing the blinds. Ever since Clay forced me out, I knew someday someone would come asking questions. Then you know why we're here. I sat down on his worn couch. Clay's been stealing from the company. Terence moved to his desk, typing rapidly. But it's worse than that. He's been cooking the books for years, hiding losses, inflating profits. Jonathan leaned forward. How bad is it? Bad enough to send him to prison. Terence turned his laptop around. Look at these transactions. Every quarter, money disappears into offshore accounts. Then it's written off as consulting fees or operational costs. I scanned the numbers, my stomach turning. How did nobody notice? Oh, people noticed. Terence's voice was bitter. But Clay's good at making problems disappear. Ask Marcus from accounting, or Sarah from legal, or me. We need proof, Jonathan said. Something concrete we can take to the board. Terence smiled for the first time. Why do you think I kept copies of everything? Been waiting for someone with the power to actually do something about it. He pulled out her external hard drive. Everything's here. Every transaction, every fake consultation, every threatening email. I even have recordings. Recordings? I asked. He nodded. Clay has a habit of making threats in person, thinking it leaves no trace. He forgot about my hearing aid. He tapped his ear. Latest model, records everything. My phone buzzed again. Selena. Emergency. Clay and Scarlett spotted entering law firm downtown. Looking like they're making moves. We need to move faster. I showed Jonathan the message. Terence, are you willing to testify if it comes to that? That's why I kept all this. He gestured to the hard drive. But Elizabeth, you need to know something else. Your father, he suspected what Clay was capable of. That's why he set up the trust the way he did. What do you mean? Robert knew Clay would try to take everything eventually. He told me to watch, wait, and be ready when you finally saw the truth. Terrence's eyes were kind. He always said you were smarter than Clay gave you credit for. My throat tightened. Thank you, Terrence. Don't thank me yet. He handed me the hard drive. This is going to get ugly before it gets better. Clay won't go down without a fight. Neither will I. I stood up, clutching the drive. Jonathan, can you start going through this tonight? We need to be ready before Clay makes his next move. As we left Terrence's house, another text came through, this time from an unknown number. Back off now, or everything you love burns. I showed it to Jonathan, who frowned. They're getting nervous. Good, I replied, getting into my car. That means we're on the right track. The office was eerily quiet at midnight. I sat in Jonathan's office, surrounded by stacks of printed documents from Terrence's hard drive, when my phone lit up with Selena's call. You need to see this, she said without greeting. Sending you an email now. I opened my laptop, clicking on her message. Inside was a video from a security camera, showing Clay and Scarlett in what looked like a heated argument in the company parking garage. Where did you get this? Let's just say the security team likes me better than they like Clay, Selena replied. Watch the whole thing. In the video, Scarlett was jabbing her finger at Clay's chest, her face contorted with anger. The audio was poor, but I could make out fragments. Promised me, better deal, or I'll tell them everything. Well, I said, looks like trouble in paradise. Keep watching. Clay grabbed Scarlett's arm, his face close to hers as he spoke. This time the audio was clearer. Don't threaten me. Remember what happened at your last job. How quickly things can go wrong. Is he threatening her? I asked. Looks that way. But here's the interesting part. I did some digging into those other companies Scarlett worked for. In each case, the CEO faced fraud charges, but Scarlett walked away clean. Almost like she was setting them up, I finished. A knock at the office door made me jump. Jonathan entered, looking exhausted but excited. Selena, I'll call you back. I hung up. What did you find? You're not going to believe this. He dropped a thick file on the desk. Remember those consulting fees Clay kept paying to offshore companies? They all trace back to a single account in the Cayman Islands. Guess who opened it? Scarlett. Better, Orlando. Our legal counsel, Orlando. I sat up straighter. The one who's supposed to be on our side. The same. Jonathan pulled up some documents on his computer. He's been helping Clay hide the money. But that's not even the best part. Look at these dates. I leaned in to see the screen. The transaction started exactly 1 month after Scarlett joined the company. They've been planning this from the beginning, I said. It gets worse. Jonathan clicked through more files. Orlando's been systematically destroying evidence. Documents are disappearing from the legal department's archives. My phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. Final warning, walk away now. I showed it to Jonathan. They're getting desperate. Elizabeth, he hesitated. Maybe we should bring in the authorities. Not yet. I stood up, pacing the office. We need to be smart about this. If we move too soon, they'll destroy everything. We need... The office door burst open. Clay stood there, his expensive suit wrinkled, his face flushed with anger. Working late, he sneered, looking between Jonathan and me. How cozy. Just catching up on some paperwork, I said calmly, subtly sliding Terrence's hard drive into my bag. Cut the act. Clay stepped into the office. I know what you're doing. Cameron told me about your little breakfast meeting. Did she tell you everything? I met his gaze. About Scarlett's interesting employment history. A flicker of uncertainty crossed his face before he masked it with anger. You need to stop digging, Elizabeth. For your own good. Or what? I stepped closer. You'll force me out. Make me disappear like Marcus. Like Terrence. You have no idea what you're dealing with, he growled. Actually, I do. I pulled out my phone, playing the video Selena sent. Threatening your pregnant mistress in the parking garage? Not very paternal of you. Clay's face went pale. Where did you get that? I have friends too, Clay. Loyal ones. Unlike Scarlett, who seems ready to flip on you at any moment. He moved so quickly I barely had time to react, grabbing my arm roughly. Listen carefully. Take your hands off her. Jonathan's voice was steel. He'd moved between us, his larger frame forcing Clay back. Now. Clay released me, straightening his jacket. This isn't over. You're right about that. I rubbed my arm. It's just beginning. After Clay stormed out, Jonathan turned to me. You okay? Fine. I picked up my bag. But we need to move faster. Call Orlando first thing tomorrow. Tell him we need to review all the acquisition documents from the past year. Why? Because, I smiled grimly, we're going to give him exactly what he wants. A chance to destroy evidence. Only this time, we'll be watching to see exactly what he tries to make disappear. Jonathan nodded slowly. Setting a trap. Exactly. Clay's not the only one who knows how to play dirty. Orlando's office smelled of expensive leather and anxiety. He shuffled through the acquisition documents we'd requested, his normally steady hands trembling slightly. I'm not finding the Palmer merger files, he said, avoiding eye contact. They must be in storage. That's odd. I leaned against his desk. I could have sworn I saw them here last week. His Adam's apple bobbed. Perhaps you're mistaken. I'm not. I pulled out my phone, showing him a photo. See? Right there on your desk, dated last Tuesday, along with some very interesting offshore account documents. The color drained from his face. Elizabeth, I can explain. Save it. I cut him off. I know you've been helping Clay hide money. The question is, what are you going to do now? I don't know what you're talking about. He started gathering papers, but I placed my hand firmly on them. Let me be clear, Orlando. I have copies of everything. Every transaction, every fake consultation, every deleted document. The only question is whether you want to be a witness or a defendant. The door opened, and Selena walked in, followed by Jonathan. Perfect timing, I smiled. Show him what we found. Jonathan opened his laptop, turning it toward Orlando. These are the transfer records. Your signature is on every one of them. And here, he clicked to another document, is your Cayman Islands account information. How did you... Orlando slumped in his chair. Did Clay tell you I was just a trophy wife? I sat on the edge of his desk. That I wouldn't figure it out. That I wouldn't fight back. He said you'd take the settlement and leave quietly. Orlando wiped sweat from his forehead. He promised nobody would get hurt. Selena scoffed. Tell that to Marcus. Or Terrence. I had no choice. Orlando's voice cracked. Clay had evidence. From my past, he said he'd destroy me. And now I can destroy you, I leaned forward, unless you help us. A knock at the door made us all jump. Cameron stood there looking uncertain. Sorry to interrupt, but... She glanced at Orlando, then back to me. We have a problem. Scarlett's gone. What do you mean, gone? I stood up. She cleared out her apartment last night. Clay's been trying to reach her all morning. Cameron stepped into the office, closing the door. And she took documents with her, lots of them. Orlando went even paler. Oh, God. What documents? Jonathan demanded. Everything, Orlando whispered. She has copies of everything. It was our insurance policy in case Clay tried to double-cross us. I exchanged looks with Jonathan and Selena. This changed things. New plan. I turned back to Orlando. You're going to call Clay. Tell him you need to meet, urgently. Why would I? Because if you don't, Selena cut in, these documents go to the FBI within the hour. Orlando's shoulders sagged in defeat. What do you want me to say? Tell him Scarlett contacted you, that she's threatening to expose everything unless she gets $5 million by tomorrow. But that's not true, Orlando protested. Isn't it? Cameron stepped forward. She's done this before, 3 times, always the same pattern. Seduce, record, blackmail, vanish. Orlando picked up his phone with shaking hands. He'll know it's a trap. No, I smiled coldly. He'll be too scared to think straight, just like you were when he threatened you. We listened as Orlando made the call, his voice admirably steady as he fed Clay our story. When he hung up, he looked sick. He's coming here now. Perfect, I turned to Jonathan. Get everything ready in the conference room. Selena, call Terrence, it's time. What are you going to do? Cameron asked. I'm going to give your brother exactly what he wants, a chance to fix everything. I headed for the door. He just won't like how I do it. Elizabeth, Orlando called out. There's something else you should know. The pregnancy, it's not real. It was part of their plan to push you out faster. I stopped at the door. I know. A woman that calculating wouldn't let an actual pregnancy complicate her con. How did you... Because I'm not just a trophy wife. I turned back one last time. I'm my father's daughter. And it's time everyone remembered that. As we left Orlando's office, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. But this time, it wasn't a threat. It was an address, followed by 4 words. Want to make a deal? Scarlett? Selena asked, reading over my shoulder. Looks like our trap caught a different mouse. I forwarded the message to Jonathan. Get me everything you can on this address. We're about to play both sides against the middle. The pieces were falling into place faster than I'd expected. Now I just had to make sure they fell in the right order. The warehouse district was deserted at this hour, just as I'd expected. I parked my car, where Selena could see it from her surveillance position, and walked toward the address Scarlett had sent. I don't like this. Jonathan's voice crackled through my hidden earpiece. She could be setting you up. That's why we have backup, I murmured, spotting Scarlett's silhouette through a grimy window. Everyone in position? Yes, Selena confirmed, and I've got everything recording. I pushed open the heavy metal door. Scarlett stood in the center of the empty space, looking nothing like the polished mistress I'd seen in photos. Her designer clothes were replaced by jeans and a plain black sweater. You came alone? She asked. Did you? She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Touché. Let's talk business. Let's talk about how you've done this before. I stepped closer. 3 other companies, 3 other CEOs, always the same pattern. 4, actually, she corrected. The first one never made the news. She pulled out a USB drive. Want to know what's on this? Let me guess. Evidence of Clay's fraud, recordings of your conversations, proof of the fake pregnancy? Her smile faltered slightly. You've done your homework. More than Clay did before he hired you. Men like Clay are all the same. She twirled the drive between her fingers. So convinced of their own brilliance that they never see the trap until it's too late. And what's your price for that drive? $3 million. Half of what Clay offered to get rid of you. I laughed. You really think he has that kind of money? The offshore accounts are empty, Scarlett. He's been moving money around to look wealthy, but it's all smoke and mirrors. Now it was her turn to look uncertain. You're lying. Check your Cayman account. Orlando transferred everything out this morning. Her face went white. She pulled out her phone, fingers flying over the screen. I watched the moment she realized I was telling the truth. That son of a... He played you, I interrupted, just like you played him. Difference is, I saw you both coming. What do you want? Her voice had lost its confidence. Everything. The drive, your testimony, the whole story. Why would I... The warehouse door crashed open. Clay stood there, face contorted with rage, Orlando nervously hovering behind him. You backstabbing bitch! Clay stormed towards Scarlett. Right on time, I muttered into my earpiece. You stole from me. Scarlett backed away from Clay. I saw the accounts. You were never supposed to get that money, Clay shouted. It was just to keep you quiet until... Until what? I cut in. Until you'd forced me out, taken control of the company, hidden all the evidence of your fraud. Stay out of this. Clay turned on me. This is your fault. If you'd just left like you were supposed to. Like Marcus left. I stepped forward. Like Terrence. Or maybe like Sarah from legal. You don't understand anything, Clay sneered. I built this company. No, my father built it, I corrected. You just figured out how to steal it. With help, of course. I looked at Scarlett. Though your helper wasn't as loyal as you thought. Enough! Clay reached into his jacket. Gun! Jonathan's voice crackled in my ear. But before Clay could pull whatever he was reaching for, the warehouse lights blazed to full power. Terrence stepped out from behind a pillar, followed by 2 FBI agents. Actually, Terrence said calmly, I think that's quite enough evidence. He held up his hearing aid. Amazing what these little devices can record these days. Clay's face went from rage to shock to fear in seconds. You can't... Federal agents. One of the FBI agents stepped forward. Everyone stay where you are. You set me up, Scarlett whispered, staring at me. No, I watched as the agents began reading rights. You and Clay set yourselves up. I just made sure everyone was here to see it. Elizabeth, Clay tried one last time as the agents cuffed him. We can work something out. We already did. I held up my phone, showing him the board's emergency resolution that had just come through. You're fired, effective immediately. And since I control the majority shares, this time it's permanent. As they led Clay and Scarlett away, Orlando hung back, looking lost. What about me? He asked quietly. That depends. I turned to him. How much are you willing to tell the FBI about everything you've seen? He straightened his tie, decision made. Everything. I'll tell them everything. Smart choice, Selena said, finally entering the warehouse. Unlike some people, you might actually get to see daylight again. I watched as the FBI led them all away, feeling not triumph, but a deep, settled certainty. Clay had thought he was writing the ending to our story. Instead, he'd only managed to write his own. The courtroom buzzed with tension as Clay's lawyer finished his opening statement. I sat in the front row, watching my soon-to-be ex-husband's perfectly tailored prison jumpsuit and carefully practiced remorseful expression. He still thinks he can charm his way out of this, Selena whispered beside me. Not this time, Jonathan murmured from my other side. The prosecutor stood, a stack of documents in her hands. Your Honor, the state calls Elizabeth to the stand. Walking to the witness stand, I caught Clay's eye. He tried to give me that smile, the one that used to make my knees weak. Now, it just made my resolve stronger. Please state your name for the record, the prosecutor began. Elizabeth Marie Dixon, though I'm in the process of reclaiming my maiden name. Can you tell the court about when you first discovered the financial irregularities in your family's company? I leaned toward the microphone. It started small. Missing documents, unusual transfers, board members being pushed out for questioning decisions. And when did you begin collecting evidence? Objection. Clay's lawyer stood. Relevance? Goes to establishing pattern and premeditation, Your Honor, the prosecutor countered. Overruled. Continue. I straightened in my seat. I started gathering evidence about a year ago, when I noticed large consulting fees being paid to companies that didn't exist. Did you confront Mr. Dixon about these irregularities? Not directly. I'd seen what happened to others who questioned him. Marcus from accounting was fired and blacklisted. Terrence, our CFO, was forced into early retirement. Sarah from legal disappeared completely. The prosecutor held up a document. Your Honor, I'd like to enter into evidence Exhibit A, emails between the defendant and Orlando, showing their coordination in removing these employees. Clay shifted in his seat, his confident facade cracking slightly. And when did you become aware of Ms. Spencer's involvement? After Clay told me she was pregnant and demanded I leave our home. I kept my voice steady. That's when I started looking into her background and found her connection to similar schemes at other companies. Objection. Clay's lawyer again. Speculation. Your Honor, we have documentation from 3 separate cases where Mrs. Spencer was involved in nearly identical fraud schemes. Overruled. The questioning continued as we laid out the entire scheme. The fake pregnancy, the offshore accounts, the threatened employees, all of it. With each piece of evidence, Clay's expression grew darker. Then came the recording from the warehouse. Clay's voice filled the courtroom. You were never supposed to get that money. It was just to keep you quiet until... Until what? My recorded voice asked. Until I'd gotten rid of her. Until I had full control. The prosecutor paused the recording. To be clear, who is her in this recording? Me, I said. He was planning to force me out of my father's company. The company you legally held majority shares in, correct? Yes. My father set up a blind trust before he died. Clay never bothered to read the fine print. A ripple of murmurs went through the courtroom. Clay's lawyer was frantically whispering to him, but Clay shoved him away, standing suddenly. She's lying, he shouted. She manipulated everything. She set me up. Mr. Dixon, sit down, the judge ordered. You think you're so clever, Clay continued, pointing at me. You think you've won? I built that company. I made it what it is. Remove the defendant, the judge commanded. As bailiffs moved toward Clay, he lunged forward. You're nothing without me, nothing. Jonathan was on his feet instantly, moving between Clay and me as the bailiffs grabbed him. Order! The judge's gavel cracked like a gunshot. One more outburst and you'll be held in contempt, Mr. Dixon. As they forced Clay back into his seat, I caught Scarlett's eye from where she sat with her own lawyer. She gave me a small nod. Our deal was still on. Her testimony would be next, and it would bury Clay completely. No further questions, Your Honor, the prosecutor said. Clay's lawyer stood for cross-examination, but the damage was done. His outburst had shown everyone exactly who he was. Not the polished, confident CEO, but a desperate man who'd lost everything because of his own greed and arrogance. As I stepped down from the witness stand, Cameron caught my eye from the back of the courtroom. She mouthed 2 words. I'm sorry. I nodded slightly. She'd made her choice to testify against her brother, choosing truth over family loyalty. It couldn't have been easy. Back in my seat, Selena squeezed my hand. You did it. Not yet, I whispered back, watching as Scarlett took the stand. But we're about to. The prosecutor stood again. Ms. Spencer, can you tell the court about your first meeting with Mr. Dixon and the plan you developed together? Scarlett leaned into the microphone, and I watched Clay's last hopes crumble as she began to speak. Guilty on all counts. The judge's words echoed through the courtroom as Clay stared straight ahead, his perfect facade finally shattered. I watched as they led him away, his designer suit replaced by prison orange, his confident stride reduced to a shuffle. 20 years, Selena whispered beside me. That's what you call karma. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, microphones thrust in my face. Elizabeth, how does it feel to take back your company? The company was never the point, I said clearly. This was about justice, for Marcus, for Terence, for Sarah, and for everyone else Clay hurt along the way. Back at the office, I found Jonathan waiting in my father's old office. My office now. He had a stack of papers on the desk. The board approved everything, he said. Marcus has agreed to return as CFO, and Sarah's already back in legal. And Terence? Consulting position, his terms. Says he's too old to work full-time, but he'll help train the new team. I sat behind the desk, running my fingers over the smooth wood. What about Orlando? 3 years, with cooperation. He's already helping the FBI track down similar schemes at other companies. And Scarlett? Witness protection, Selena said, walking in. Apparently she's got evidence on bigger fish than Clay. The FBI's very interested. Cameron's outside. Jonathan nodded toward the reception area. Says she needs to talk to you. I found her pacing by the windows, looking out over the city. She turned as I approached. I sold my shares, she said without preamble. I can't stay here after everything. I understand. Do you? She met my eyes. He's still my brother, Elizabeth, despite everything. I know, that's why I'm giving you this. I handed her an envelope. She opened it, eyes widening. This is a contract for your own consulting firm, independent, but with us as your first client. You can build something of your own, Cameron, something honest. Tears welled in her eyes. Why would you do this? After everything, because you chose truth over loyalty, that counts for something. The elevator dinged, and Marcus stepped out, looking uncertain in his new suit. Sarah was with him, her head held high despite her obvious nervousness. "Welcome back," I called out. "Ready to get to work?" Their smiles were answer enough. Later that evening, I sat in my father's, my office, looking at his photo on the wall. "You'd be proud," Selena said from the doorway. "The company's stock is up 30% since the verdict was announced. That's not why he'd be proud," I smiled, standing up. "Come on, we've got a dinner to get to." The restaurant was packed, but they led us straight to our reserved table. Marcus, Sarah, Jonathan, Terence, and even Cameron were already there. "A toast," Terence raised his glass, "to Elizabeth, who reminded us that sometimes the quiet ones are the ones you should watch out for." "To justice," Sarah added. "To new beginnings," Cameron said softly. My phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. For a moment my heart stopped, but this wasn't a threat. It was from Scarlett. "Thank you for the second chance. Some of us do learn from our mistakes." "Everything okay?" Jonathan asked. "Perfect." I put my phone away. "Actually, I have an announcement. The board approved my proposal this morning. We're starting a foundation for corporate whistleblowers. Legal support, job placement, protection, everything we wished we'd had." "The Clayton Dixon Memorial Foundation," Selena suggested with a smirk. "No," I smiled. "The Truth Tellers Foundation, because sometimes the truth needs a little help coming to light." "Your father would have loved that," Terence said quietly. "I know." I looked around the table at these people who'd risked everything for truth. But more importantly, it's the right thing to do. As dinner wound down, I found myself thinking not about Clay's betrayal, or even my revenge, but about the future. The company was stronger than ever, built on transparency and truth instead of lies and manipulation. We were creating something meaningful, something that would help others stand up against corruption. "Ready to go?" Selena asked. "Actually," I smiled, "I think I'm exactly where I need to be." Because in the end, this wasn't just about taking back what was mine. It was about building something better from the ashes of betrayal. Clay had taught me an important lesson. Power isn't about control or manipulation. It's about using your strength to lift others up. And that's exactly what I intended to do.